Goedemiddag, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the micro-focus session on realizing value from your smart automation. Nice to see some familiar faces here in the room. I cannot see the people back home, but welcome as well to our session. My name is Jerry. My colleague Safa is with me as well. Yes. And we're going to do the next, I guess, 1 hour and 45 minutes we had, I'm not sure. But we're going to talk a little bit about how to realize more value from smarter automation. The first thing is a little bit on the agenda. I want to start with a little bit of an introduction, maybe a little bit of history. It doesn't show, I still look very young, but in fact I've been a couple of decades in the testing industry as well, as some of you, I guess, as well. So I want to, look back a little bit to see what we did in the past, to then come on looking where we are today and what kind of challenges we are facing. Then the most interesting part is how do we overcome these challenges, and also how can tooling help in this story. A little bit of micro-focus tooling. I'm sure we will touch on a lot of different tools and even open source and so on as well. So we will look at some tooling capabilities, some really nice little short examples we have, seen the time we have, and we will bring it all together in the end and talk about what we call value stream management, briefly, just to give you an overall picture in here. I think I can start with a little of an introduction, and it's no mystery to any of us. We are in digital transformation, right? We are transforming the way we do things all the time, and it really has a big impact on the way we also test. And I call it here functional test automation, speed and scaling challenges. It goes a lot further than just functional testing. It impacts all kinds of testing that we do today. And how did we do this in the past? Looking back a little bit. And this is actually the 80s. I didn't start back then in the 80s. I started a little bit later in the industry. There was no real test automation. There was no need to. People had the time, siloed systems that had just manual testing, and testing was done by developers mainly. Then we started to see the rise of web and the .com, which started also the rise of test automation tooling. Personally, I come from a company called Mercury. They had a tool called WinRunner in the 90s, which was really targeted to that specific type of test automation, with a record replay interface, with heavy scripting interface, and so on. Time moved on, and we looked at agile approaches. We need to do things faster. And it also had an impact on the way we do test automation. We had to find ways to speed up our automation. So we invented test frameworks, testing techniques, and so on. And this moved even further with the rise of things like cloud, multiple devices. How do you deal with mobile versus desktop, multi-browser testing, and so on. CI/CD, DevOps, a lot of integrations that you need to have now with your testing tools. If we look at today and the future, and I'm sure you hear this a lot, we talk a lot about things such as AI, machine learning, which is actually making our life, or supposed to make our life, easier, work smarter and faster. Okay. The number of tests, of course, with all these approaches, like I said, in the 80s, we didn't have much of test automation. Today, we often talk about 10,000s of tests and even more that we need to automate. So that's a little bit of the history.
Yeah, can I have... No, this the pointer, yeah. Yeah, so we all run into a test automation wall, right? When we are going to test, because we have test creation barriers. We don't have the time to test, basically, and when it takes a lot of time. And when we don't, in a test design, and we don't test, we don't get the results from the testing. So we don't get value from that. The other one is, not everyone has the right technical skill. Some are better at developing, others are not really technical. So, so not everyone in the QA team can do automation, so we can not cover automation like 100%. The other thing is, we have a lot of, like Jerry told, we have a lot of platforms, devices, and it's exponentially growing. So what do we need to test? Can we even test them all? So that kind of things. And this is the main issue, like really test maintenance. One small change in the code can break the test evenly. And this takes a lot of time to get it back on track. And of course, sometimes running these tests takes a lot of time. So we can't even get this desired result in the speed that we need. So what we need to do is we need to work smarter. We need to work smarter in the way we design the test cases, in the way we automate the tests, and also how we handle these test maintenance. So how do you overcome these tests? So one of the things is, like Jerry told, like in the late 20s, like artificial intelligence. We are more incorporating it in our tests. Why don't we use like vision, not computer vision, NLP, or even machine learning, deep learning in our test design? Also, why don't we have a central place where you can easily access your devices and can reshare them and maximize your ROI? Even going shift left, incorporate developers. Not only that, with using artificial intelligence, you can already design your tests, even build your tests in the mock-up phase. And with service virtualization, for example, you can remove barriers and start testing earlier. And you don't have to wait in the development lifecycle. And of course, we need to also bring the business into the action as well, because the business analysts know what you have to test, what are the critical business processes that we need to cover. So shift right is also a part. And this all need to fit in a DevOps environment as well. We have to integrate, we have to work with other tools, leverage them as well, because we are better together, of course. And another example is, for example, when you use a script for functional testing, why can't I use that for performance testing? To see what is the actual usage, for example.
That's a very nice story, Safa. And you know, I like the challenges, but I would like to see a couple of examples. You know, you mentioned test design, you mentioned test execution, you mentioned test maintenance. I think the audience is really wanting to see something more deeper. So, hey, go ahead,
yeah,
doing a good job.
Of course. So the first one is about test design. Yeah, there are still some flaws. We have like on-premise tools, and these are unwieldy. And we are sometimes not on the right version even. A lot of new functionalities come. We can't keep up. It's only sometimes even only for technical people. Other people can't even use it. And because of that, we have lack of collaboration. So it's only like, no insights. So how can we do smarter test design? So like I said, why don't we leverage AI and codeless testing, for example? It's easy for people that are not technical. They can immediately start writing, just in plain English, like click on, if you see in the picture, for example, you see a website, click on the login button, for example, because we can see, it's a login button, for example. It's very easy, just start writing, because you have also automatic insights, multiple scripting options. For example, if you say like, I want to go deeper, I need to do like even coding, like going deeper, you can do that as well. And it supports multiple technologies, from mobile to web, even other applications as well. So Jerry? Yeah, so talking about AI, so what is that exactly? Because, that is maybe unclear. So how would it be if you can recognize objects like a human does? For example, like I said, there's a hamburger button. I need to click on that hamburger button. So with our tooling, we use computer vision, and it's not depending on the underlying identifiers of an object. And with neural networks from machine learning and deep learning, it knows how to interact with that object in the screen. And why don't we use, and with natural language processing, you can just write tests in plain English, like click on the profile button, log in with this username, with this password. Just very easy. Like I said, very easy onboarding. And it makes test case design very easy. Yeah. Yeah, so what are the benefits of leveraging AI? Like I said, the maintenance will be lower because you have less objects that you have to worry about. Because of computer vision, you don't have the underlying identifiers that you need to manage. When something changes, you don't have to change that because it automatically identifies, this is the object. Even if it's from the left side of the web page is on the right side, it knows, that is the login button, for example. So you don't have to, when that layout changes in the code, for example, you don't have to change your test script as well. So what this does is also increase development in test cases. And when everyone, like I said, can even business analysts that don't even know how to code, can be involved in the test development, for example, in a test case design, then we have also more time to work on automation. Go from manual, okay, how can we do this, to automation. So these are the benefits that you get from this.
That's really cool. You know, me as an old school guy, I often think this is science fiction, but as a matter of fact, it's not. And we have this also running live at our booth. If we have the time, I'll show you some movie at the end as well on this. Yeah. Maybe it's a good time now to pause if there's any question from the audience or back at home. No? Going once, twice. Okay, we move on. Test execution. Safa just talked about test design. We should also not forget test execution. Very often, of course, we need machines to execute our tests. There's a cost involved with that. There's often also some complexity involved in that, right? Setting up your test lab, to say it like that. And now it's time for the silly picture of the day. I'm Batman, and this guy thinks he's executing his tests in a good way, but he's actually not. Because he doesn't have the right test resources, not the right machines available. He doesn't know how to schedule the tests, and you end up like the picture below in an office like that. Also, running in parallel is an amazing value if you are able to run your tests in parallel, compared to sequential testing, right? So, what we have today for you is what we call your digital test execution lab. It's a remote access via web browser to both cloud-based and on-premise mobile devices and browsers. So with this device, digital lab, as I can say it, right, you have all the deployment options you have to do all your mobile testing on real devices, private devices, running in the Micro Focus cloud, or even public devices running in some other cloud option. And you can really make sure that all your test execution gets scheduled. You can, of course, follow how the utilization of your resources is to scale up or scale down easily your digital test lab. I think, Safa, that's back to you.
Yeah. So like I told, we have lack of skills and alignment, and these increase the cost for test maintenance. Like automation requires high technical skills. Not everyone in the QA team has those skills. So we are dependent on senior engineers, and right now there are not a lot of them. Even junior engineers can't handle that, for example. We have a lot of frameworks, a lot of scripts that we need to manage, so we don't have even time for that. And this is very important. We have sometimes even not have an alignment within the business requirements even. So we don't even know what to test, or are we testing even too much, like wasted effort? So how can we optimize this one? So why don't we align with the business even more? Like get the business analysts, because the business analysts know what the critical business applications are, or the end-to-end business processes. These need really to be tested, and it's very important for the business. So you get an improved collaborations with the business and the QA. Align with the requirements that we need to test. And what I told you, a business analyst can make a model out of it. Like where you create a model from your test design, from your test cases, and with AI and codeless testing, you can easily drag and drop it. And the tool automatically shows you which critical paths need to be tested to get a high coverage. Like these tests you should do, like these paths, if you see in the picture below, you should take, then you have a high coverage. For example, I cover like 90% of my requirements, and that's good to go. So yeah, so this is a smart way to leverage your test maintenance even with model-based testing.
Oh, this is me again.
Yeah.
Now you're wondering, you're showing me a bunch of nice things. Maybe it's time to bring it together a little bit. What do we have actually next to it? And what we say at Microfocus is this is all nice. We have all these capabilities in our tooling, but what you should also do is actually look at your entire value stream. And what do I mean with that? You see it on the slide as well, right? You need to start with planning, analyzing, and tracking along the whole flow of starting with your strategic portfolio, your business ideas coming in, going into your product request, your feature request, do all your design, your coding, your testing, your release. And this whole flow, the result of this whole flow, at the end determines the value that you are realizing. And along that road, it can be bumpy. We do expect that, it's a smooth transition from one phase to another phase. That's what managements expect. In reality, you will have a lot of waiting times, handover delays, waste created, risk introduced, and you need to be able to manage that. How do you do it? Of course, by making sure you can analyze different, let's say, key KPIs, key performance indicators, along that path. You see things like lead time, cycle time, code quality, resource availability. You need to keep all of these in mind. And that's exactly what value stream management is, and what we also do with Microfocus value stream management solution called Value Edge. We give you a platform which is really linking to all these different parts of your end-to-end value stream. There's a part of portfolio in there. There's, of course, agile planning, backlog management in there. There's the whole quality management with the test automation. And I mentioned in the beginning, it's not just functional. It can be security, it can be performance as well, with maybe integrations into your existing tool chain. Because, of course, this is a nice picture that we can say we at Microfocus can cover you with that. I'm very sure you already have some tools today, open source, commercial tooling, that need to fit into that picture as well. So we have into that DevOps space, we have currently over 100 connectors available to different parts of tools to bring that data into the value stream, so that you enable all your teams in the organization to work together to reduce waste, reduce risk, and maximize the value of your end-to-end value stream. And this is actually a pretty nice approach, and the reason this is a nice approach is that's a modular approach. The picture I just showed you from all these models, all these different parts, portfolio management, agile, and so on. Well, I would always say to an organization, start with the point where you see the challenge, and take a modular approach. Like, I don't know if this has a pointer, probably the people at home don't see it. Start with the quality part. Optimize your test automation. Get the most value out of test automation. And you can easily, link to the other modules. If you say, like, in my tool chain, I have something else for agile, I have something else for release management, you make sure that the quality and the functional testing part is really integrated. So you have the complete flow into your value stream management platform, which is called Value Edge. So go end-to-end, strategy to delivery. Make sure you integrate with your existing tool chains. We offer out-of-the-box integrations, standard with the platform. And streamline your delivery into that platform. To give you an example on how this platform would look, because actually everything we showed you up to now is part of this one and the same value edge platform. And this is an interesting screenshot because it shows you a bit of the look and feel of that dashboard, of that platform, with a dashboard, of course. But it also shows you on the left side, if you can see it in the room, all the different modules or parts that you can easily access from one page, from one website. It's a web-based cloud solution as well. You can go into your quality management, look at your functional tests immediately, go schedule your tests, execute your tests in the digital lab, build your models that Safa explained about. But the same counts for performance tests. They can go here and click on performance testing, and they immediately get the overview of what are my scenarios, what can I execute, what can I plan from performance tests. It all comes together in one platform. And then, of course, the strength is all the reporting that you have out of the box on this platform. You can define flows, product-based flows, right? Each block which you see here is a different product that I'm working on, that my teams are working on. And this tool, this platform uses also AI capabilities to look at what is the efficiency, what is the velocity, where do I see risks being introduced. So there's also AI capabilities behind. Where does it base its decisions on? Of course, of all the data which is fed into the platform. All right? Maybe a good point again. Any questions? Yes, sir?
Well, about the AI.
You maybe want to...
About the AI stuff, mainly the natural language processing, especially in UIs, you often have very business-specific words, and also in different languages. And I know that natural language processing for English is, well, quite good, but for Dutch and other smaller languages, it can be quite tricky. So how do you solve that?
I know all about that. I'm Belgian, so I have to do stuff in both Dutch and French, and even sometimes German. So also for automated tests, it's quite a challenge often. Maybe you will see it in the little movie, but we have options in our AI engine to do kind of an, I would say, first and second option. So in one step of your test, let's say click on the login button, but it can be in Dutch, inloggen. But in English, it's login, for example, that you can say, if I don't see it as a login button, I will look for an inloggen button. So the concept of purely English is not here. It will really analyze the page, and when it says inloggen, it will click on inloggen. That's clear. Okay?
Yeah, and instead of pictures, looking at pictures, it will also identify text, for example. Like immediately, there's a text block. Maybe you wanted to click on there. So it makes it very easy for you. Yeah.
And by the way, this AI, well, we pitch it here now as a new thing. Of course, in the context of the Value Edge platform, we've been working on AI for 4.5 to 5 years. So it means that if you install the tool today, it comes with, I call it a brain which is consisting of tens of thousands of learnings, which have been done on applications by our R&D and so on. And it also has self-learning. You can contribute.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if the AI doesn't recognize something, there is a button, add to the brain, and it will send it to our centralized library of learnings, and it will just be added to that. And next time, the AI engine will recognize that object or that specific type of application as a normal application. So there is a lot already. It's not that it comes with an empty thing. There's already a lot of pre-packaged intelligence in the solution as well. Anything else? No? Oh, here's my clicker. I'm not used to work with a clicker. I want to tell you a little bit. I give you a little bit of a highlight. What is our approach if we work with you as a customer or as a partner? When you start, of course, you need to start looking at, and I always say look at your entire value stream, but make sure you also have the people and the business objectives aligned to those value streams. And you will typically start walking. You deploy the platform, which is easy. It's just like on the cloud, and you say like, start, and then the platform is there, right? And you start with a couple of modules. We are in a testing automation track, so a typical module would be quality module with all the AI behind, with all the Testlab behind, with the model-based testing behind, right? You integrate with your existing tooling, whether it's open source tools, test automation open source, or planning agile open source tools, and you integrate them. And then you will start collecting all these metrics. You can start building your KPIs, you can start building your dashboards, and you can start to align different teams in your organization. That will also allow you to extend and cover the whole product lifecycle from ideation to deployment and release, and make sure you have, of course, all the AI capabilities in there to reduce time, risk, and make sure all your low-value tasks are automated. And that's easy, because the tool, of course, will keep track of all what is executed, all what is done by your developers even, unit tests they run, regression tests you do, performance tests you do. And if there's manual tasks in there, the tool, the artificial intelligence, will also pop up and say to you, this is a good candidate to do automation, to use AI on, to work on a model, because you're frequently repeating this manual task, so you're wasting time, you may be wasting money, so it's time to start automating this as well. All of that you will have in one specific tool. Questions? I think I'm going to show you the movie anyway. I wasn't planning to, I hope it works. So I'm not sure if I'm starting at 0. Yes. This is a question? No? Oh. What you see here on the little movie, and you see it on the top left in blue, it says model-based testing. This is my value edge platform, and I'm looking at my library of models, where I see on the left, it says repository.
It's not playing.
Is something happening?
No, it's not playing.
No, it's not running because I talk too slow. It's my problem. The movie is too fast for my talking. What I do have is an application called, or a product called AOS. It's an online shopping platform, by the way. It's a demo application. And of course, for this product, I have some models with the green thing which says shopping and logged in flow, right? So I'm going to click on this model. And this is how this model looks, right? It is a nice drag and drop editor where I can, of course, look at my entire flow. You will see there is some branching in there as well. And on the left side, I see components, my whole repository of already available units or components that I have. So how do I now build my test? Either this is automatically discovered from a CI/CD tool. If I execute, we have a solution called UFT, Unified Functional Testing. If I execute UFT tests via CI/CD, automatically this component library will get filled. But of course, I can also build it manually. This is a click, drag and drop interface, so I can add a component. I start with a login. It needs a username, it needs a password. Poof, and I drag it to the canvas. My second component is look at my shopping cart. I make it, they look at shopping cart up, and I drag and drop it in there. Then I have my flow of my business process, my model, let's say it, worked out, right? And I have my entire flow. One of these blocks can, of course, consist as well of many different, what I call units. That's why I say the U. Different units, right? I can combine them into a whole flow. When I look at one of these units, of course, they have a lot of attributes. You see here pure out of the box the solution, but of course I can add multiple attributes to it. For example, if I would have linkage to some other third-party solution, some other tooling, I can add this as an attribute on my canvas here. But the most interesting one is where I'm going to click now. It says automate, I'm going to click not there, automate with codeless. And what you see here on the screen, it's text. Click the profile. Type user ID into username input. Type user password into password. Click the sign in button. This is my automated test. There is nothing behind it. There is no script behind it. There is no object repository, whatever behind it. That is my automated test. I can execute this on my application. and it will do the things that I'm writing there in normal language. That's what the AI is about. Also, please note, I did not install any testing tool on my laptop. All of this runs in a web browser, right? In Chrome, in this case. So it means that even the users who are not familiar with test automation tools, more business users, can use this based even on your manual steps that you have, your description of your manual tests, to automate your tests in a simple way. Also note the reusability, the fact that this is login. This is one little building block, and I can use that building block in whatever test I want by using it in the graphical editor and dragging and dropping it and creating an end-to-end flow for my test. Now, of course, there's a little bit more behind. I can edit this, because here I can only read it. This is the repository view. However, when I click on the button Automate with Codeless, I am going to open my AI codeless interface, which again is running here. And you see it in a bit of a more detailed view. I click the profile. So if I click on one of the lines, and maybe let's look at the tabs on the left, for every step, I will have a couple of tabs, right? Of course, I can add parameters like user ID, like user password. To that, of course, I can link, for example, an Excel or an XML file with multiple values for usernames and passwords, so I can easily data drive that test as well and go through the different steps here. Now, how do I get this step? How do I build it? Either I type it, like, you know, it's natural language. By the way, this is not in Dutch. This is only English, little remark. Maybe it'll come pretty soon, I'm not sure. It depends on how much you guys will start using it, of course. Then there's also a way of recording this. If I have the application available, I can easily, with this AI codeless, I can scan the screens of my application. So I just say to the tool, and that's these 4 buttons that you see on the top with the little squares, I can say, analyze my application. And the tool will look at your screen of your application, whether it's a mobile application, whether it's a web application, whether it's an SAP application, for example. And it will say, hey, on this screen, I found this button, this edit field, this menu item, this screenshot. It will show you all what you found. And you can then easily drag and drop from that screenshot into the different steps. Now, when you do that drag and drop, it will automatically classify that as well, because of course when you scan it, it will know that it's a button, it will know that it's an edit field, and so on. And it will automatically insert what we call the default action. For a button, for example, it would be click. I click on the button, most logical step. However, if I want to change it and do something else, instead of typing it, click the profile, I can, of course, also change it here in this little drop-down, which I see here. And like I said, it works both on mobile, on web, on some desktop technology as well. What you also see, capabilities of, for example, branching, ifs or if-then-elses, conditional statements, branching statements. I can just type if this, then that, if this, else, then that, else that, for example. So it's a very easy to use. And of course, I can also here say run on any open web page or on any browser that I have. Or of course, I can also say I want it to run on a specific application only, which is running on an iOS device or on an Android device. By the way, this is technology independent. Like I said, there is no script behind. There's nothing else behind than what you see here. So the AI engine uses this machine vision to just look at the application as we do, right? And whether we look at a mobile phone, if it's an Android or an iPhone, we all know that from a developer's perspective, it's very different apps, whether it's Android development or iOS, it's completely different. With a classic test automation tool, very often you would have to build 2 tests to cover it. What if you then add a browser as well? It's a 3rd test. You have to script all of that. AI doesn't care. It means if you build this for your desktop in a browser, You can run it on a mobile, whether it's an Android, whether it's an iOS. The AI will recognize those objects on your screen as well.
So this also means, like, even if you have in the user UX design in the mockup phase, you can also start writing your test.
Indeed, that's a strong one, and it's too bad I cannot show it. But even before my application is ready, I could just take a piece of paper and I draw my login screen, and I draw an edit field, and I write with my pen username, and I make a button, and I write login on that button, and I will take a picture with my phone of that screen that I draw. I feed that picture into the tool. I say, scan this, and you know what? There will come out that, oh, this is a screen with 2 edit fields and a button which is called login. I can use this on mockup as well, without having a real application, which means I built a test on a mockup. Whenever the application is ready, the minute it's ready, I can execute my test and it will run against a real application. How about that of not wasting time, right? Because that's often where I think a lot of us have struggled in the past. I definitely had, is the lead time you need to design, to build your test. You have to minimize that. You have to keep it as short as possible. And on top of that, then you think, oh, I've built a great test, beautiful test. Next release comes of the application and your test breaks because the buttons changed, because they moved from Java to .NET technology or whatever. Guess what? We don't care about that anymore either. Feels like I lost my job, but that's still not the case, right? We still need the experienced people like you in there. By the way, I said my application is an online shopping platform, right? This is the shopping platform, just to give you an idea. So what I wanted to do, the test that I just showed you, is really just clicking on the profile and logging in. So I'm just going to do an execution of this test as well to show you that it works. It's just a movie, but I could show you live as well. Yes. So initializing, the test is going to run. It's going to pop up the login screen. It's going to type in my username. It's going to type in my password. And it clicks the sign in. By the way, in my test, it said click the login button. It said sign in, and it still, it said sign in. Okay, if I would make it login, I thought it said login. Apologies. So my test is done. Now I can also, in my web browser, without having the test tool, of course, look at all the test results. A full audit of what was done, readable by anybody. Click the profile, type AI demo into, and so on and so on. And even when I highlight one of the steps, it also captures a screenshot of the application, and it shows, and you don't see it here, but on the top right, you see this little person icon with the green square around it. It shows where it clicked on your application, right? So you have the full, I would say, audit of all your executions, when it was executed, how long it took to execute, all in the same one centralized platform. Same for typing the username. Here you see it a little bit clearer as well. So that is the combination of AI and codeless with a model-based testing approach running on a centralized value stream management platform, which is called ValueEdge. And I think maybe there are questions.
There's a question, Jared.
Yes, Jeroen?
Yeah, I have a question from the chat.
Hi, chat.
How much customization is it compared to using Gherkin?
Customization to build the test, or, well, it's a little bit, well.
It seems very similar initially, but a little bit more low code.
Indeed, well, you could compare it a little bit to the pseudo code you would use in Gherkin and in BDD testing. This is still, I think, a step beyond that, because this is natural language, right? This is not the Gherkin scenario given and so on. This is really the natural language stuff. By the way, on the platform that I told about, ValueEdge, we also integrate with Gherkin. So with existing Gherkin tests, you can edit, visualize, and execute from our platform as well. So I wouldn't say it's how do you say, competition. It's more a complementary thing next to your BDD tests with Gherkin. All right. Safa?
Yeah, you can do this, Jared. Yeah, do it.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, so this is our statement. By implementing next-gen continuous quality capabilities, running on multiple platforms, module platform even. You can start small, extend from there. That suits your organization better. Yeah, and facilitate and speed up value delivery of automation.